The blue light from the television flickered across Jack Miller's face as he sat alone in his small apartment. The news talked about strange signals detected by space agencies around the world. Jack didn't care much. After 8 years as a Marine sniper and 3 tours of duty, he had seen enough of the world's problems. He took another sip of his beer when the TV went black. So did the lights. Power outage, he thought. But then a humming noise filled the room, and through his window, he saw a bright light washing over the entire neighborhood. His military instincts kicked in. Jack grabbed his go bag from under the bed and his hunting knife from the drawer. As he reached for the door, it burst open. 2 tall figures stood there, their skin gray-blue and reflective like fish scales. They had 4 arms each and large black eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Jack Miller, you will come with us," one of them said in perfect English. Jack didn't hesitate. He lunged forward with his knife, but his body froze midair. He couldn't move a muscle. "Fascinating," the second alien said. "Attack response time, 0.8 seconds, exactly as the report suggested." They carried his frozen body outside where a ship hovered above his apartment building. Other people from his neighborhood were being loaded as well. Some were crying. Some were fighting against the same invisible force that held him. Some were just shocked into silence. Jack recognized Lisa Reeves from 2 blocks over, a sergeant in the Army who had just returned from deployment. She wasn't struggling but watching everything with calculating eyes. There was also Alan Parker, a Navy communications specialist who lived in the same building as Jack. "What is happening?" Jack managed to ask when the force holding him loosened slightly. "The Galactic Confederation requires your service," the alien said. "Your planet is now part of the war effort against the Void hegemony." Inside the ship, hundreds of humans were secured in strange gel-like seats, a large screen activated, showing another alien, this one with purple skin and tentacles framing what seemed to be a face. "Humans of Earth," the alien began. "I am Admiral Zex Talon of the Galactic Confederation. Your world has been under observation as a protected developing planet for centuries. However, the ancient protocols of conscription allow us to draft species from protected worlds in times of extreme need. The Confederation faces extinction from the Void hegemony. We have selected military personnel from your world based on your transmission records." Lisa, seated near Jack, leaned over. "They're drafting us. Like some intergalactic Vietnam." "Seems like it," Jack whispered. The ship rumbled as it left Earth's atmosphere. Through a viewport, Jack watched his planet shrink to a blue marble, then a dot, then nothing. Alan Parker threw up in a basin that appeared from his seat. 3 days later, they arrived at the Crucible, a massive space station that served as the Confederation's training facility. When they stepped off the ship, the gravity felt slightly stronger than Earth's. The air smelled sterile. Aliens of all shapes and sizes stared at the humans. Some had tentacles, others wings. Some were just clouds of gas in containment suits. They whispered among themselves as the humans passed. "They look so primitive. I heard they still killed members of their own species. Is it true they evolved from predators?" A tall, insect-like alien stepped forward. "I am Kilvoric, Combat Efficiency Instructor. Humans, you have been brought here because you possess something rare in the galaxy, natural combat instincts." Jack felt the alien's compound eyes examining him. "Your species has 23 active conflicts on your world right now. Most Confederation species have not experienced war in thousands of years. They evolved as herbivores or filter feeders. They lack the killer instinct." Kilvoric moved closer to Jack, towering over him. "But you, Jack Miller, your record says you have personally eliminated 73 enemy combatants. The Confederation needs that expertise desperately." Jack felt the stares of aliens and humans alike. His past, the one he had tried to leave behind, was now the very reason he had been taken from Earth. "Training begins tomorrow," Kilvoric announced. "Rest well. You will need it." The first day at the Crucible started with a shock. Humans were placed in the lowest tier of accommodations, small pods barely bigger than closets. Jack woke to an alarm that sounded like screeching metal. His muscles felt heavy in the station's stronger gravity. "Time to see what we're up against," Lisa Reeves said as they walked to the main training hall. Her short brown hair was neatly combed, her posture perfect despite the circumstances. The training hall was massive, with ceilings at least 50 feet high. Different alien species clustered together, keeping distance from the human group. Admiral Zek's Talon floated on a platform in the center. "Today begins your integration into the Confederation forces," the Admiral announced. "You will start with basic physical assessment." The first test was simple. Run across the room. The soft-bodied aliens moved gracefully but slowly. When the humans' turn came, they sprinted across, finishing in half the time of the fastest alien. "Remarkable locomotion speed," noted an alien observer. Next came strength tests. Alan Parker, despite being the smallest male in the human group, could lift weights that made the insect-like aliens struggle. Lisa outperformed several large aquatic aliens who looked 3 times her size. "They're afraid of us," Jack whispered to Lisa as they watched the aliens' reactions. "Look at how they back away when we approach." The last test was combat simulation. Each recruit entered a chamber where holographic enemies appeared. They had to either evade or neutralize the threats. Jack entered the chamber, feeling the familiar calm of combat readiness wash over him. When the first hologram appeared, he moved instantly. The alien observers watched in silence as Jack eliminated target after target, his movements efficient and lethal. When he finished, Kilvoric approached him. "Your species doesn't hesitate." The others needed to convince themselves action was necessary. "You simply acted." Later that day, during a meal break, an accident occurred. A support beam cracked in the dining hall, threatening to crash down on a group of high-ranking officers. Jack didn't think. He rushed forward, pushing 3 aliens out of danger just as the beam crashed down. He took a glancing blow to his shoulder but stayed standing. The dining hall fell silent. No one had moved except Jack. Kilvoric studied him from across the room, his compound eyes unreadable. After the medical team cleared Jack, he met a strange alien in the hallway. It looked like a floating jellyfish with dozens of thin tentacles. It approached Lisa, who stood nearby. "Your species possesses fascinating medical traits," the alien said in a bubbling voice. "I am Squib, medical officer. May I ask questions about human healing?" Lisa nodded cautiously. "I guess so." Meanwhile, Alan Parker had been taken to the communications center. The alien technicians were struggling to properly translate certain human concepts. "Your language contains too many variations of the same idea," complained a furry, 6-eyed alien. "You have 27 words for killing someone." "Why?" Helen shrugged. "Because there are different ways to do it, I suppose." That evening, the humans gathered in a common area assigned to them. Other species avoided it completely. "They're treating us like we're dangerous animals," Alan said. "Maybe to them. We are," Jack replied, wincing as he rotated his injured shoulder. "Did you see how they reacted in the combat sim? Like they'd never even considered some of those moves." Lisa leaned forward. "The medical officer, Squib, told me most Confederation species evolved without major predators. Some have never had a war in their entire history. Then why are they fighting now?" Ellen asked. "The Void hegemony gives them no choice," Jack said quietly. "Kilvoric showed me images from conquered worlds. Trust me, these aliens may not understand war, but they need to learn. Fast." A chime sounded, indicating the day cycle was ending. As the humans returned to their pods, Jack noticed Kilvoric watching him from a distance. The alien instructor made a gesture toward Jack, a slight nod that somehow seemed both respectful and worried. "Tomorrow," Kilvoric had told them, "we begin actual combat training. Prepare yourselves. The real work starts now." 3 days after their arrival, Admiral Zek's Talon called an emergency meeting with his commanders. The humans were not invited, but Jack had convinced Alan to place a small listening device near the command center. The three of them huddled around a tablet in Jack's pod to listen. "These humans are too dangerous," said a voice they recognized as Commander Plix, head of security. "They think of violence first, not last. But their combat efficiency ratings are the highest we've ever recorded," another voice countered. "The Void Forces will overwhelm us without new tactics." Admiral Zext Hallen's distinctive voice cut through the debate. "What do you suggest? Kill Count Instructor." Kilvoric spoke slowly. "Form them into a special unit. Let them train together. Their methods are disturbing, but effective." After heated debate, the decision was made. The next morning, all humans were gathered in a separate training facility. Jack, Lisa, and Alan were joined by three other humans. Diane Martinez, a former demolitions expert with wavy black hair and steady hands. Steve Blackwell, a muscular ex-police officer with a booming voice. And Frank Collins, a wiry engineer with quick eyes and quicker fingers. Kilvoric entered the room alone. "You are now Special Tactics Unit 7. Your training will be different." "Different how?" Steve asked. "You will train as you would on Earth. You will show us your ways of warfare." Jack stepped forward. "Who's in command?" Kilvoric's compound eyes fixed on Jack. "You are, Lieutenant Miller. Sergeant Reeves will be your second." Jack frowned. "I didn't agree to this. You were selected for your kill count and tactical efficiency," Kilvoric stated flatly. "The choice is not yours to make." The team was given access to a large simulation chamber where they could create any combat scenario. Their first test was scheduled for the following day, a rescue mission with observers from Confederation High Command. That night, the team planned their approach. "They want to see how we fight," Lisa said. "Let's show them." Diane smiled slightly. "I can rig simulation explosives as distractions. I'll handle close-quarter combat," Steve added. "I can work communications and tech," Alan offered. Frank nodded. "I'll handle equipment modifications." Jack looked at each of them. "We do this by the book. Clear the room, secure the hostages, get out. No flashy stuff." The next day, the observation deck was filled with high-ranking aliens when the team entered the simulator. The scenario began. A building with 12 hostages and 20 guards. What happened next shocked the observers. Instead of a frontal assault, the humans split into 3 teams. Diane set diversionary explosions on the far side of the building. Frank and Alan disabled the power systems. Jack, Lisa, and Steve entered through 3 different points simultaneously. They moved through the building like ghosts. When they engaged enemies, they did so with brutal efficiency. Jack used simulated close combat techniques that made some observers turn away. Lisa employed cover and suppressed fire tactics the Confederation had never considered. Steve showed room-clearing methods that seemed recklessly fast, but worked perfectly. In 4 minutes, all hostages were secured and all guards eliminated. The simulation ended. Silence filled the observation deck. "What was that approach called?" Admiral Zex Talon finally asked. "Coordinated tactical infiltration," Jack answered. "Standard procedure for hostage situations on Earth." "Standard," an alien commander whispered to another. "Their standard is our impossible." That evening, the team found their accommodations upgraded to officer level. A message from Kilvoric accompanied the change. "High Command is both disturbed and impressed. Training continues tomorrow. You will begin instructing other units in basic human combat concepts." As Jack lay in his new quarters, he wondered if they were being rewarded or simply separated from the others for safety. Either way, humanity had made its first real impression on the Galactic Confederation, and it was one of efficient, calculated violence. Word about the humans spread quickly through the Crucible. Some alien soldiers began seeking them out for advice. Others avoided them completely. Jack noticed how conversations stopped when he entered rooms, how eyes or sensory organs followed him wherever he went. "We're celebrities," Steve joked during breakfast. "The scary kind." More like weapons they're not sure how to handle, Lisa replied. Jack said nothing. He had spent years trying to forget what he had done in war. Now those very skills were the reason he was here. That morning, Kilvorick took Jack to a special training room. Inside were weapons of various designs, all clearly alien. Today you learn Confederation weapons, Kilvorick said. This is standard issue for frontline soldiers. He handed Jack what looked like a smooth tube with glowing blue lines. Jack turned it over in his hands. Where's the trigger? The sights. It responds to neural commands through the grip. It does not need sights. It guides the energy pulse to the target you intend. Jack frowned. So it aims itself. What if it aims at the wrong target? That does not happen. The weapon is linked to the shooter. Jack pointed it at a target and thought about firing. A blue pulse shot out, hitting perfectly center. Interesting. But what if it malfunctions, or the neural link is disrupted? Kilvorick's head tilted. Those scenarios are extremely rare. On a battlefield, rare things happen constantly, Jack said. He pulled out a knife. Mind if I make some modifications? Meanwhile, Alan and Frank discovered something concerning. While studying Confederation computer systems, they found references to post-conflict containment protocols regarding Earth. They're planning to quarantine our planet after the war, Alan whispered. They think we're too dangerous to allow free travel in the galaxy. Frank shook his head. Can you blame them? Did you see their faces when Lisa demonstrated how to set up a sniper position yesterday? The concept of hiding to kill was completely foreign to them. In the medical bay, Lisa was having a similar conversation with Squib. Your species evolved as prey animals, Squib explained, his tentacles moving gracefully as he spoke. Most Confederation species did. We fled from predators. We hid. We never needed to develop combat instincts. But you must have some aggressive species in the galaxy, Lisa said. Of course. But they typically destroy themselves before achieving space travel. Your species is unique, violent enough to be effective warriors, but controlled enough to build civilization. Their conversation was interrupted by an announcement. High-ranking officials from Confederation Central Command were arriving for inspection. All units were to present their training progress. The inspection went smoothly until the very end. Jack noticed something odd. A maintenance worker moving too purposefully toward Admiral Zek's talon. The worker's hand moved toward a hidden pocket. Jack didn't hesitate. He launched himself across the room, tackling the worker to the ground. A blade clattered across the floor. Security forces swarmed, and seconds later, the would-be assassin was revealed to be a Void sympathizer who had infiltrated the station. The Confederation officials were shocked, not just by the assassination attempt, but by Jack's response. How did you know? Admiral Zek's talon asked later. Body language, eye movement, hand position, standard threat assessment, Jack explained. You saw all that in seconds. Any trained human soldier would have. That evening, Kilvorick visited the human quarters. He found Jack examining the modified Confederation weapon. Jack had added physical sights, a manual trigger, and a way to eject the power cell quickly. You saved the Admiral's life today, Kilvorick said. The High Command has taken notice. Just did what I was trained to do. That is what concerns them. Kilvorick paused. Tomorrow, your team will receive your first real deployment orders. The Void forces have attacked one of our research outposts. Your mission will be evacuation and protection. Jack looked up. We're ready. I know, Kilvorick said. That is what frightens us. The military transport ship rushed through space toward Destra 9, a small moon orbiting a gas giant. Jack and his team checked their equipment one last time. They had been given standard Confederation armor, but each had modified it in some way. Jack had added extra knife sheaths. Lisa had adjusted her helmet for better sniping visibility. Steve had reinforced the chest and shoulder plates. Remember the mission, Jack said to his team. Get the scientists out. That's it. Intel says there are 32 research personnel trapped in the main facility, Alan added. Void forces have surrounded the area, but haven't breached the central labs yet. The ship shuddered as it entered the moon's atmosphere. Through the viewport, they could see smoke rising from several buildings in the research complex. Touchdown in 60 seconds, the pilot announced. As the ship landed, Diane distributed small devices to everyone. Basic traps. Pull the red tab and throw. 10-second delay. The ramp lowered, and the humans moved out in perfect formation. They were accompanied by a small Confederation security team, led by an officer named Grell, a tall reptilian alien who seemed nervous. "We should proceed directly to the facility," Grell suggested. "The fastest road is." "No," Jack interrupted. "Too obvious. We'll split up. Lisa, take Steve and circle east. Diane and Frank, go west and set up those traps along the likely approach routes. Alan, you're with me and Grell up the center, but slowly." Grell looked confused. "Why split our forces? It reduces our strength." "It multiplies our options," Jack replied simply. The plan worked better than expected. Lisa and Steve encountered a void patrol and eliminated them silently before they could report in. Diane and Frank set traps that caught a larger group trying to flank the facility. When Jack's group finally approached the main building, they had created a diversion that drew most of the void forces away. But inside the facility, they found a worse situation than reported. Several sections were already breached, and the scientists were scattered throughout the complex. "We need to move fast," Jack said after they regrouped. "The void forces will realize they've been tricked soon." For the first time, they saw their enemy up close. The void soldiers were nightmarish, part organic, part machine, with multiple limbs and weapons built into their bodies. They moved with precision that reminded Jack of insects rather than people. As they fought their way through the facility, the Confederation soldiers with them watched in amazement. The humans didn't just fight. They predicted, adapted, and improvised. When communications went down, Alan rigged a simple radio system using parts from the lab. When a group of scientists was trapped behind void lines, Diane created a distraction using chemicals from the research lab, while Steve and Jack extracted them. They had almost completed the evacuation when disaster struck. Lisa spotted a void soldier aiming at Squib, who had joined the mission as a medical officer. Without hesitation, she threw herself into the line of fire. The energy blast caught her in the side, burning through her modified armor. "Lisa!" Jack shouted, rushing to her while firing precisely at the void soldier. Squib moved quickly, his tentacles applying emergency medical treatment. "She requires immediate evacuation." With Lisa wounded, they had to move faster. Jack implemented a fighting retreat, using the last of Diane's traps to slow down the pursuing void forces. They reached the transport with all surviving scientists and took off just as the void began a major assault on the landing area. In the ship's medical bay, Lisa lay stable but unconscious. Squib worked tirelessly on her wound. "She saved my life," Squib said quietly to Jack. "Why would she do that for a being she barely knows?" Jack looked at the alien medic. "Because that's what humans do for their friends." The mission was declared a complete success. 30 scientists rescued, with only 3 lost before the team arrived. But as they approached the Crucible, Jack knew that something had changed. The Confederation had now seen humans in actual combat, and the recording of Jack taking down 6 void soldiers with just his combat knife had already been viewed by Confederation High Command. Their reaction, Jack suspected, would be complicated. 3 days after their return to the Crucible, Lisa was finally released from the medical bay. Her side was healed but still sore where the void weapon had burned through her armor. The team gathered in their common room to welcome her back. "The hero returns," Steve said with a smile, offering her a cup of something that almost tasted like coffee. Lisa shook her head. "I just reacted. Any of you would have done the same." "That's exactly what concerns the Confederation leaders," Jack said quietly. He had been summoned to multiple debriefings since their return. They can't understand why we would risk our lives for others so easily. Elen looked up from his datapad. They're calling us natural warriors in the reports, like we were born for this. Jack didn't like the sound of that. He had spent too many nights trying to forget the lives he had taken. The idea that killing came naturally to him felt wrong. Later that day, Kilvoric requested to speak with Jack alone. They walked through a quiet section of the Crucible where few aliens ventured. "Do you know what my title means, Jack Miller?" "Kill Count Instructor." Jack shrugged. "You teach soldiers how to kill efficiently." Kilvoric made a strange clicking sound. "No. I teach when to kill, and more importantly, when not to kill. My position was created after the First Void War, when Confederation forces suffered severe psychological trauma from having to take lives. I don't understand. Most Confederation species have no evolutionary framework for predation or killing. Even in self-defense, the act of taking life causes them deep psychological damage." Kilvoric stopped walking. "My job is to teach them to kill when necessary, with minimal suffering to both victim and killer." Jack thought about this. "And you think humans can help with that? You have millennia of experience with violence. You understand its necessity and its cost. You can teach restraint born from experience, not fear." Meanwhile, Diane and Steve had been assigned to train Confederation units in basic human tactics. They stood before a group of 30 alien soldiers in a large training room. "The concept is simple," Diane explained. "Flanking maneuvers take advantage of your enemy's limited focus." The aliens looked confused. One raised a tentacle. "But why wouldn't we approach directly? Isn't that more honorable?" Steve suppressed a sigh. "Honor doesn't matter if you're dead. The goal is to complete the mission with minimal casualties on our side." In another part of the station, Frank worked with Confederation engineers, helping them modify weapons and equipment based on human principles. "The problem is the reliance on neural links," Frank explained. "If that fails, the soldier has no backup." The head engineer, a crystalline being named Xorla, hummed thoughtfully. "We never considered mechanical backup systems. Our technology has been neural-based for thousands of years." By the end of the week, the effects of human influence were becoming visible throughout the Crucible. Confederation soldiers were practicing flanking maneuvers. Engineers were adding mechanical backup systems to equipment. Medical teams were studying human first aid techniques that didn't rely on advanced technology. Jack met with Admiral Zex Talon in the command center, where tactical displays showed void forces advancing across 3 star systems. "Your team's success on Destra 9 has convinced High Command to implement a new strategy," the Admiral said. "We want to place human advisors with frontline units." "You want us separated?" Jack asked, concerned. "Your skills are too valuable to keep concentrated in one team. The Void is launching a major offensive against the Helios system. If it falls, the route to the Confederation core worlds will be open." Jack looked at the tactical display, seeing the movement of ships and troops. For the first time, he understood the true scale of the war and humanity's new role in it. "We'll do it," he said finally, "but I want something in return." "What?" "Guarantee that Earth won't be quarantined after the war. We deserve a place in this galaxy." Admiral Zex Talon's tentacles rippled. "That decision is beyond my authority. But I will advocate for your species." As Jack left the command center, he found Kilvoric waiting for him. "Get your team ready," the alien instructor said. "Tomorrow, you begin teaching the galaxy how to fight." The battle for Helios system began with the largest void fleet ever recorded. Jack found himself aboard the Confederation flagship, giving tactical advice to Admiral Zex Talon. Lysa was assigned to a sniper unit, teaching them patience and positioning. Steve coordinated ground forces while Diane advised the sabotage teams. Frank worked with the engineering crews, and Alan improved communications between units. "The Void forces are concentrating their attack on the 3rd planet," Jack pointed out on the tactical display. "That's unusual for them." Admiral Zex Talon's tentacles waved in concern. They never deviate from standard attack patterns. Which means it's a trap, Jack said. They're expecting us to respond in a predictable way. What do you suggest? Jack studied the display. Do something they won't expect. Split your forces. Send a small, fast team behind their lines while the main fleet engages from the front. The Admiral hesitated. Divide our strength. That contradicts all Confederation battle doctrine. Exactly. They won't see it coming. After much debate, the Admiral agreed. Jack himself would lead the strike team in a fast ship to hit the Void Command vessel from behind. His team included a mix of humans and aliens who had embraced human tactics. As they approached the massive Void vessel, Jack felt the familiar calm of combat settling over him. Remember the plan. We get in, plant Diane's explosives on their engines, and get out. No heroics. They breached the Void ship successfully, but inside, they found something unexpected. The corridors weren't filled with the biomechanical soldiers they had fought before. Instead, they encountered strange chambers where Void commanders, tall, pale beings with too many eyes, monitored the battle. When the Void commanders saw the humans, they showed an emotion Jack hadn't expected. Recognition. You are the predator species, one said in perfect English. We have studied your world for centuries. Jack kept his weapon trained on the commander. Then you know what we're capable of. Indeed, you are like us, evolved from hunters. The Confederation species are prey. They do not understand the natural order. And what order is that? Jack asked, buying time as his team placed explosives. The strong consume the weak. It is the way of all things. Jack shook his head. That's where you're wrong. Humanity learned their strength in protecting others, not just in dominance. The commander's eyes narrowed. A weakness we will exploit. Throughout the ship, alarms began to sound. They had been discovered. Time to go, Jack ordered. The team fought their way back to their ship, the explosives now set. As they pulled away, the Void Command vessel's engines exploded, sending it drifting into its own fleet. In the confusion, the Confederation forces launched a massive attack. The battle turned quickly, with the coordinated units using human tactics to devastating effect. The Void Fleet, for the first time in the war, retreated in disarray. Back on the Crucible, the victory celebration was subdued. Too many had died, but for the first time, the Confederation had won a major engagement against the Void. Admiral Zex Talon addressed the combined forces. Today marks a turning point in this war. We have learned that strength comes in many forms, including from those we once thought too primitive or violent. After the ceremony, Kilvoric approached Jack with a small metal insignia, the symbol of his position as Kill Count Instructor. This belongs to you now, Kilvoric said, placing it in Jack's hand. I don't understand. The Confederation High Command has created a new position for you. You will train others as I trained you, but with something I cannot teach, the human perspective on conflict. Jack looked at the symbol. I'm not sure I want this responsibility. That, Kilvoric said, is exactly why you are the right choice. Those who desire power over life and death should never wield it. As they spoke, a new transport arrived at the Crucible. More humans stepped out, volunteers who had been recruited from Earth after hearing about the first group's success. Jack watched them arrive, seeing the mix of excitement and uncertainty on their faces. The same look he had worn not long ago. What happens now? He asked. Kilvoric looked out at the stars. Now, Lieutenant Miller, you teach the galaxy what humanity already knows: when to fight, when to show mercy, and the wisdom to know the difference.